So my friends, this is A Look in the Dark, and it's the second part of chapter 6 about the birds. And you remember that Major Stanhurst had met up with Danny Greene, who was posing as Nick Ashby, and Nick Ashby had requested 2 white-tailed cockatoos. Ashby was told that Danny was told that this would be no problem. Perhaps that would be a problem to some of your customers, not to my client, Major Stanhurst. You name your price. Danny Greene pointed his finger at the Major in an attempt to match the arrogance that he was experiencing. No, Ashby. You leave me a phone number or an address and I will contact you with the details. Ashby shook his head slowly. That is not necessary. You will never know the identity of my client. I promise you that. Why should I deal with you or with anyone that secretive? Profit, Major. Large sums of cash. I do not deal with strangers. He's not a stranger. He's in your newspaper most weeks and regularly on your television screen. Danny pointed to the paper in the hand of the bird dealer. Stopped to get the eye contact he wanted, and then he added, however, he is not prepared to be directly connected with anything illegal. How do I know that this is not some kind of trap? You could be from the RSPB or the police. Sharply, Danny interrupted. Major Stanhurst, I hardly know a sparrow when I see one. He was surprised how easily he could deny his own nature to advance a good cause. His spirit soared higher than the castle's towers as Carol walked past them and toward the state apartments. She stopped to photograph a Busby-clad, red-coated sentry as he stood outside his sentry box. No doubt the price will be high, Major, but you would do well to remember that if my client is pleased with the results, there will be much trade to follow. Payment will always be in cash, and you can choose the location for any transaction. Where did you get my phone number? I already answered that question on the phone. My client gave it to me. I don't know where he got it, but he's got plenty of connections. The Major was starting to walk away from the cannon. I like to know who I'm dealing with, Ashby. Well, you'll be dealing with me. You are hesitant, Major Stanhurst. Perhaps you cannot get these birds at all. That brought the Major back to the cannon. I can get anything. Anything, Ashby. Do you hear me? The pompous man was spitting the words out through clenched teeth. He was not hard to ignite. Listen, Major, I understand your problem, but you had better believe me. It is far better that you never know the name of my client. Better for you, that is. If you knew and ever dared to disclose it, well, need I say any more? Danny was getting the threats in first this time and surprising himself. I will work out a system so that we do not know where the birds are until you have the money and are safely away, if you like, but don't even think of double-crossing us. Danny waited until he had eye contact again. He knew that he could never match that steely stare, but as he recalled a scene from a gangster film, he felt his face muscles stiffen into a more flint-like shape. As I say, Major, never even give a passing thought about cheating my client. I should warn you that however big you are in your field, my client is far bigger and in a much larger field. It would be wise to remember this. No matter what it is, he can arrange it, so don't twist with us. If you're not going to play straight, then back out now. After a 20-second pause, Major Stanhurst replied with a cold look of contempt. Don't threaten me, Ashby. Phone me in a week and I will give you a price for the cockatoos. He seemed more composed now than earlier in the conversation. Fine, Major, and we'll work something out. Danny glanced to his left, but Carol was out of sight. Somewhere among the throngs of visitors from all over the world, and now the changing of the guard was over, more people were milling about in the part of the castle grounds where the conversation had taken place. The party of teenage schoolboys and girls were walking toward the cannon where Stanhurst and Danny were standing. Sir was trying to encourage his class to take a look at the castle from this fresh perspective. However, the boys were more interested in the cannon and the girls were more interested in the boys, and the schoolmistress looked as if she would follow her colleague over the battlements if that was what he desired. The Major moved away from the cannon with a sour look of disgust as 2 boys pushed between him and Ashby. The 2 men walked together back, past St. George's Chapel and toward the gate. "Look, Ashby," the Major broke the silence between them. "I have an important appointment. Ring me, but not on Sunday. I never work on Sundays." "A religious objection, Major?" "Heaven forbid. I keep Sundays to enjoy the fruits of my work, that's all. Oh, and Ashby, you tell your client, whoever he is," his tone had returned to the menacing, "no tricks." He checked that other people were out of earshot, and he added a strongly whispered warning. "Two people had some idea that they might sell me out to the authorities. Neither of them will ever do a good deed or a bad deed again. Do you understand?" Danny gave him a warm smile, but it was more effective on an iceberg than it was on Major Stanhurst. "My client would not be at all pleased, Major, if I chose to repeat your threats to him. If he agrees, I will ring you. Just remember William of Normandy, Ashby." With that closing request, Stanhurst marched briskly away. As the back of Stanhurst diminished, Danny looked anxiously around because now Carol was to take over, tailing their newfound antagonist. He could see her now, fiddling with her camera as Stanhurst walked past, and for an awful moment Danny thought she was going to take a photograph, but then he realised she was just trying to look like a tourist having trouble with her camera. Resisting the temptation to wave at her husband, Carol fell into step behind the Major. It was a bit of a problem that he was marching on at such a pace, because it made it harder to pursue him without it looking obvious. Danny Greene was praying for his wife's safety as he saw them go through the gate and out of his field of view. Carol, for her part, was really pleased to be taken over and gave little thought to any consequences, being more mentally preoccupied with not losing the bird trader. Turning right at the statue of the late Queen Victoria and then crossing over and heading down Thames Street, Stanhurst had to slacken his pace because of a party of Eton College boys coming up the hill, glad to escape their studies for a while. Carol was pleased that he did not go to the railway station, instead took her to the river. Looking into the water did make her think a little bit about the danger, as she remembered the legal bird trader who ended up dead in this very Thames a few miles upstream. Perhaps he lives on a boat, she thought, but he didn't. Carol sat on her seat as he moved on down the riverbank, her eye keeping up with him all the way. Quickly, Carol took off her jacket, put on a baseball cap and another pair of sunglasses. She pushed the discarded jacket in a bag under the seat and then speedily continued the chase. There were a few people about enjoying the spring sunshine, and as she passed them by, Carol called, "How you doing?" to an elderly lady and a little girl feeding the ducks and the swans. Stanhurst now cut off and seemed to be making for a nearby car park. Although she was only about 50 metres behind him, Carol did not think she would be suspected of following him. There were plenty of people about. Carol thanked God the chosen place to meet was a tourist spot, and that the weather was bringing people out. Taking a quick note of the car park layout, she made a leisurely walk to it, but to a different row of cars from the one Stanhurst was approaching. She stood behind a Mazda, searching her handbag for imaginary keys, as if she was wanting to open the boot. Stanhurst's central locking made a loud clunk, and soon he was edging the dark blue BMW out of his parking space and driving toward the exit. Happily for Carol, this took him right past her, and she dropped her keys. She noted the registration plate, W066CON. As he revved the engine smoothly past, she gently touched the shutter button of her camera. Without lifting it to her eye, the wide-angle lens would capture the car and the registration number without her focusing, because earlier she had set the camera at hyperfocal distance, a trick she usually kept for parties. This allowed for maximum depth of field without the need for focusing. She tried to recall the name of the boy at university who had taught her that, but couldn't. The BMW was now out of the car park, and as he accelerated it, the driver showed little concern for the children at the edge of the pavement. So, do you like Major Stanhurst? Not a nice character, is he? That will become ever more evident in this story. But anyway, Danny has made an arrangement, whether pursued or not. It's given Carol opportunity to tail him, and now they've got the registration of the car. Will this help them? Hope you're all well, my friends. Thank you for listening. Hope you continue to. Love and peace. Bye for now. Bye bye.